Actually, those were they were my ideas. No, I always wanted her to have rainbow hair. But yeah, no, I think illustrations are so important, particularly for young kids, because it really helps them to connect with the characters and the world. And once they can imagine the characters and the scenario, then they're able to get immersed in the story and connect to the characters, as I said. So I feel very blessed to have her.
And so can you tell us about like the 3 stories that are in this book and then maybe some future stories that you're kind of churning around in your head?
Okay, so Marge in Charge of this first book. Well, the first story we establish Marge, who she is. You know, there's this ordinary family and this extraordinary person steps into that world and how it, you know, particularly for our lead character, the stories are told through the eyes of Jemima Button, who's 7 years old. And she, you know, and she's who we hear the stories from. And she's the perfect straight girl because she feels like she has to be a good girl. She has to do what mommy says. And sometimes she misses out on the fun. So Marge really helps her. And as I said, all the little issues that the characters, Jemima and Jake, might experience, little problems that get solved by Marge, they're solved in a grounded way, in a simple, within the family. So there's nothing to overwhelm kids. And then during the second story, we know Marge a little better. There's a birthday party and she comes along. And of course, she becomes the magician and she does lots of fun, entertains the kids. And in the last story, she goes to school, Marge at Large, it's school. And then the second book, I don't know what we called it here in the States. It was Marge and the Pirate Baby, but it might be something else here I've forgotten. But then there's Marge and the Great Train Rescue, which is the third book that you'll have. And I'm writing right now Marge and the Secret Tunnel. Yeah. So I just feel like while there's an appetite and kids are enjoying the stories in the world and it's encouraging them to read because, as we all know, unlike our upbringing, you know, we played in the garden and we read books, but kids today have access to, you know, techno toys. They have access to iPads and, you know, cell phones, and it's hard to compete. You know, the drudgery of a gray print line when you can have an image. But images, you know, they kind of stop you thinking in a way. And we want to encourage kids to expand their vocabularies and, you know, and it encourages creativity, which leads to innovation and it helps promote discussions within families. And, you know, reading it also encourages tolerance because you can see the perspective of somebody else. It's telling you the story. And I'm just so passionate about young readers continuing to love books and words. And I really hope that, you know, the world that we live in of emojis and Twitter feeds and, you know, emoticons, that it doesn't sort of, you know, take the place of loving stories.